Hi, everybody.
And Dolores and Fran are here, I believe.
Yes, she is. And yes, she is. Hi, girls. Hi, ladies.
Hmm. Hey, Lisa, what kind of dog do you have?
He's a golden. He's a American golden was his mother and an English golden his dad. So he's a real blonde golden retriever and a little bit huskier than an American golden, like bigger paws, a little bit more weighty. Um, Yeah, he's really fun and he's so sweet. But he's a puppy and Goldens take a long time to like get out of puppyhood and into adulthood. So,
Hmm.
hello, Carmen.
Hi, Carmen. How are you?
Hi, Holly.
And Holly Horn. How are you? We're taking a few minutes to share on Facebook. And meanwhile, we can say hi and stuff.
And stuff.
And stuff.
And stuff and stuff. HR, puffin stuff.
Especially stuff.
No kidding.
Hmm. I don't know if I already did that. But if I did, I do it twice. No harm done. I think we have to get together, Lisa, and start preparing our next round, okay, of Red Berets shows.
Yeah, we've got a lot going on.
Yeah, there's a lot, okay, that's going on. I thought it would be good to get some panel discussions going
I agree.
at this point.
100% agree with that.
So I think maybe we should kind of plan those and maybe huddle up with Laura.
I was just going to say we should call Laura, talk to her about it.
Yeah, still got two more shares to work through.
I am sharing in a bunch of places.
Are you using a phone or?
Yeah, I use my phone. I've got so many DM rooms I'm in. It's actually kind of shameful.
Really? Why?
I mean, there's probably 100 of them by now.
A
And,
hundred DM groups.
they go dormant, and then every once in a while I wake them up.
It gets people a little bit excited, and
Yeah, absolutely.
I guess. Okay, I think I did it. So I'm going to close down my Facebook to stop the echoes and remove a promo. Put us in the picture just like that.
Hey, guys.
Yeah, you can make a cup of coffee. Oh, yeah, everybody, please buy me a cup of coffee. Bonnie is reminding me to ask you to buy me a cup of coffee. Since I'm so non commercially oriented. Hey, Carmen, how are you doing? Hi, Dolores. Anyone I may have missed? Damn it. Why isn't it letting me share to Facebook? I don't know. Facebook is very touchy these days. Is that Sandy I see? Oh, Gina Marie is here. Hi, Gina Marie.
Hi, Gina.
And there is Sandy. Hi, Sandy. How are you? Glad to see you. Dolores, glad to see you in both places. That's really excellent. Okay, so things continue to get worse or questionable, or we're seeing the same patterns every day. We're also seeing people trying to fool us, I think. And so we're going to talk about those things tonight. The first thing I want to share is a piece on hypocrisy, which came from Common Dreams. I have mostly Common Dreams stuff tonight. Did I share it? I guess I did share it. So, okay, let's go through it. I'll try to be as brief as possible. Okay, this piece calls out the hypocrisy of the right-wing Democrats because, of course, they approved a military budget of $778 billion. The author of this piece is Jake Johnson of Common Dreams, as of today. And he points out, of course, that $778 billion, when you project it out to 10 years, and you assume that costs are going to go up over those years. Anyway, the projected U.S. military budgets over the next decade are likely to cost $8.31 trillion. So, of course, everybody was complaining about the cost of the Build Back Better Act, which was going to be $3.5 trillion over 10 years, far less than half. So the right-wing Democrats have spent several months griping about the cost of the BBBA, and in that time they were successful in cutting $2 trillion off the bill's top line. But they're facing growing pushback from people on the progressive side and analysts as Congress gets ready to approve a military budget that's far more expensive on an annual basis. The $8.31 trillion is an estimate coming from Stephen Semler, co-founder of the Security Policy Reform Institute. He's the one who projected the $8.31 trillion. That is double the combined price tag of the American Rescue Plan, which is $1.9 trillion, the $550 billion bipartisan infrastructure law, and the $1.75 trillion reconciliation package. I should point out, as I always do, that the $550 billion bipartisan infrastructure law is actually a $1.2 trillion bill.
Yeah, why do they do that? Why do they get down to 550?
Okay, because it worked in this way. The new money that's being appropriated for that bill is $550 billion. The rest is money that is being essentially reappropriated from the CARES Act. Now, it had been appropriated already, but was unused because of the way they administered the CARES Act.
Is that the stuff that Mnuchin gave back?
It includes some of that stuff.
Okay.
It includes stuff in other funds that were not used by small businesses because of the way the banks administered the program to, favor very large businesses. But there was roughly another 650 billion or $700 billion that was never spent from the CARES Act. So they're repurposing that, and then they're adding 550 billion, and that's the 1.2 trillion dollars in spending in the bipartisan infrastructure bill. Okay, so anyway, if you combine that with the 1.75 trillion and the 1.9 trillion, it comes up to roughly 50% of the military spending. At a time, of course, when our military spending isn't nearly as important as our climate spending. And of course, the conservatives are constantly screaming poverty, that they don't have money for the climate spending. And here they go, spending $8.31 trillion, okay, on military stuff, which in large part, of course, is used to build the empire and to oppress people, okay, in other countries. We have to be very clear. We have an American empire now, and our foreign policy is mostly imperial politics. And that involves doing things for American businesses, using military efforts, okay, of various kinds, to keep our business people and our businesses abroad safe and influential. Because what happens is we overthrow regimes, okay, in other nations that are unfriendly to our business people, okay, and our companies. The way we do that is by bribing a lot of people, and sometimes by sending in intelligence people to kill key persons on the other side, and, do things like that. But we all know that's going on. I just want to call attention to it again.
And a lot of that, too, is to offshore production to China and things like that.
Is to support that, but also a lot of it is to get certain key materials, okay, from other nations. In South America, for example,
Mm-hmm.
lithium in South America is very important, but for a variety of industries here, and we want to make sure the supply of lithium, okay, is safe, and that means putting in governments that are friendly to our companies. And those are governments filled with people who will take the bribes that the companies offer. So this article notes that Joe Biden requested $753 billion, okay, in military budget, and the House and Senate proceeded to tack on $25 billion more than Joe Biden asked for. And of course, they did that because the $25 billion is used to bribe defense industries in their districts. This whole thing is one big circle jerk, with the public being at the receiving end all the way. Over a decade, that increase alone would amount to more spending than all of the healthcare provisions currently in the BBBA. Yeah, 25 billion. If you multiply that by 10, it's 250 billion. And that's more spending than all the healthcare provisions that are in the 1.75 trillion Build Back Better Act. So that's what this is about, to point out the hypocrisy of this, on the part of the right-wing Democrats. And also to point out that they never worry about the deficit. They never worry about the debt, except when that has to do with spending on people, which they apparently don't think they get any benefit from. Anyway, Bernie Sanders called this out as well. Okay, Ed Markey called it out. Also, they introduced uh, they introduced an amendment that would bring the proposed defense bill back down to what Biden requested in May. I don't think they're going to be successful at that, though. I'd be very surprised, okay, if they won.
Hasn't it already passed? I mean, what would they do? They would amend it now?
No, it hasn't already passed. In other words, the final appropriation is still going through.
Oh, okay.
And that's what they're working on now. I know we've been hearing a lot about this bill for a long time, but it's not final yet. It's unclear whether the Sanders-Markey amendment will have any more success than other recent efforts to reduce the military budget, which have been defeated by Republicans and Democrats, bankrolled by the defense industry. And of course, that's quite true. But many of the right-wing House Democrats who held up the Build Back Better Act over purported concerns about its cost, including Josh Gottheimer of New Jersey and Stephanie Murphy of Florida, voted with Republicans in September to tank an amendment aimed at reversing the $25 billion add-on. And then there's also Joe Manchin, of course, and he was one of the major obstacles to the BBBA in the upper chamber. He voted to advance the full $778 billion NDAA, that stands for National Defense Authorization Act, last week without once complaining about its price tag. Over the past decade, Joe Manchin, a self-styled enemy of fiscal insanity, has voted in favor of $9 trillion in military spending. And he never worried about the deficit spending that involved, or whether it was going to involve any deficit spending at all. Completely silent on the matter. So Jeremy Scale of The Intercept wrote on Sunday that, quote, while there is much media focus these days on the intensely polarized dynamic on Capitol Hill between Democrats and Republicans, as well as the legislative battles among the Democrats, none of this has stopped the work of the empire from going forward, unquote, wrote Jeremy Scale. He goes on in similar vein for a while. And that's it, really. That's the story. Okay. So the point is, the political power of the right-wing Democrats is still far too great. And the reason why it is far too great, it seems to me, one reason anyway, is because of the progressives who won't say no. Who won't. Now, they couldn't block, of course, the passage of the defense bill because there's a bipartisan crime that's going on there. And they don't have enough people to block the bipartisan crime, even if the whole progressive caucus stood but together, the 94 of them said no, the defense bill would still pass because it would get almost all the Republican votes and very many of the Democratic votes. So they can't say no to that, but they could have said no to the infrastructure bill and refused to vote for anything except a $3.5 trillion BBBA, unless that was passed at the level of $3.5 trillion. So that is what the progressives did not do, but they are happy to talk about the hypocrisy of the right wing and to play that kind of game with us.
just to point it out because I think it's important, because it bothers me greatly.
Good.
Joe Biden uh, intervened in those negotiations in the House while Nancy was um holding up the floor vote for hours when they had 23 of the Progressive Caucus that were holding out. And they called them all back in, and Joe Biden was making them assurances, blah, 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 blah. But, again, they decoupled that bill under pressure from the White House and Nancy together, with some assurances, supposedly, they were going to score the BBB, blah, 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 right? We know that. But it's not lost on me that this was happening over and over and over again for months. They were doing negotiations without the chair of the Senate Budget Committee. They were not including the certain members of the Progressive Caucus when they were doing some of these negotiations. And, once again, the Oval comes and steps in and has these discussions, and the next thing you know, they're called back into a meeting with Nancy while the vote is sitting there for what? It took 3.5 hours for them to complete that vote on that bill, Joe. You and I were up until what, 2 o'clock in the morning watching those shenanigans go on, right?
Yeah, pretty much we were sitting and watching the shenanigans and kind of knowing they were going on in the background.
Yeah, yeah. So
it's important to point out, though, the significance of the shenanigans that they did give certain assurances to the progressives that the right wingers in the House would still vote for the $1.75 trillion bill as written. Okay. Well, it turns out that the right-wing Democrats did keep to their bargain. And it's interesting to ask why they kept to their bargain. And let's look at the next article to make that a little more clear.
Hello, Kay. Hello, Lana. And hello, Michelle. Just want to make sure I'm saying hi.
Good idea. Hi, Lana. Hi, Michelle. And hi, Kay. And hi, Carmen. I'm not sure whether I said hello to you before, Carmen, but never hurts to do it again, I guess. So here we are. And this is an article about the wonderful Ms. Jayapal. There she is. Common Dreams piece. And she's participating in a news conference there in the Capitol on June 16th, 2021. And the headline is, Pramila Jayapal wins a down payment on social progress. This is by Sarah Anderson, and originally came from inequality.org. So Sarah Anderson is obviously a supporter, of Jayapal. She says that Jayapal has never made any bones about the fact that her vision for economic transformation goes far beyond President Biden's. As the chair of the CPC, she's been a leading champion of Medicare for All.
No, that's arguable, but go ahead.
A pathway to citizenship for undocumented immigrants, a wealth tax, living wages and union rights for all workers, student debt cancellation, and many other policies left out of the president's Build Back Better plan. So she's been a leading champion.
I might go get some wine, Joe.
Oh, are you going to get some wine?
No, I'm kidding. Go ahead.
Oh, I've got some wine here.
Drink for me.
I will. Uh, she was such a great champion of them that she allowed them to be left out of the Build Back Better plan.
Tweeting about those things does not count.
It does not count as support. What counts as support is saying no if they don't stay in the frickin' bill. At the same time, Jayapal recognizes, the article says, the potential in the BBB negotiations to win what she calls a, quote, down payment on that much bolder agenda. And she's been willing to take tremendous heat to secure the biggest down payment possible. Well, one can argue about that. I mean, not about the heat. Heat is the name of the game when you're going forward with something. Whether you're doing a good job or not, you get the heat because they don't want you to get anything at all. But anyway, twice in September and again in October, Jayapal stood up to Speaker Nancy Pelosi and blocked votes on a narrow bipartisan infrastructure bill, insisting that the House approve the bill in tandem with the much better Build Back Better Act. Then she upset some on the left, yeah, she upset us, by turning around and leading most of the Progressive Caucus members to vote for the bipartisan bill as a standalone in early November. She'd secured a verbal promise from conservative Democrats to support the BBB at a later date, but could they be trusted? Last Friday, Jayapal's gambit paid off when House Democrats virtually unanimously passed the Build Back Better legislation. And about those 2 months of delay tactics, she says they created the leverage to reinsert key provisions on paid leave and prescription drug pricing and immigrant work visas.
Yay, yay. What happens when it gets to the Senate? I can't stand this.
What happens when it gets to the Senate? What this article doesn't say, of course, is that the whole point of holding back on the passage, of the BBBA was to ensure a positive Senate vote on the BBBA before the infrastructure bill was approved in the House. That was the leverage. It was the leverage, the progressives in the House had. Not to get the bill passed out of the House. That was less important. That was, of course, going to be part of the deal. But having the power to hold off the passage of the infrastructure bill was what was supposed to make the Senate vote for the BBBA.
Mm-hmm.
The vote they took in early November foreclosed that particular possibility. In other words, Jayapal actually negotiated giving up her ace in the hole. That's what she did.
Our ace in the hole.
Our ace in the hole. She gave that up. So now she's claiming a victory because it passed through the House.
Mm-hmm. And the day that happened, Joe, I just want to point this out. PDA tweeted out that the BBB has passed. Didn't say it passed the House. The tweet was the BBB has passed, which, I'm tired of if you don't need a cheerleading squad if you're doing your job well.
Yeah. So these people are lying to us. The PDA people know very well that you get the ball over the goal line when the president signs it. Until then, there's no act. Right. There's no success that counts. In a celebratory video, going back to the article, Jayapal highlights several of the other significant reforms in the bill, including universal preschool, a cap on childcare expenses of no more than 7% of income for most families, extension of the expanded child tax credit, and significant investment in home-based care, affordable housing, and clean energy jobs. And did I mention, she asks, quote, that this is all paid for by making large corporations and the wealthiest Americans begin to pay their fair share? Folks, she's talking fantasy here
Yeah, she is.
because nothing has passed. Nothing has been signed by the president. Nothing has been passed by the Senate. So it's not real. She's still talking all futures. And she's celebrating the futures while having given up her leverage to make sure the futures become a reality. Now, I'm not saying there's no chance that this bill, is going to pass the Senate. But given the attitudes that have been expressed and demonstrated for months on end by Sinema and Manchin, they don't have the 50 votes. So they're not going to be able to pass this through the Senate without further cuts to the bill.
Manchin has already come out and said that he'd be very happy with not voting for any of it.
Right.
And Sinema is,
he has said that, and now he's in a perfect position not to vote for any of it, because the thing he wanted, the infrastructure bill, was already given up to him by Jayapal in early November. Indeed, as my fellow tax expert colleague Chuck Collins and I wrote recently, while the House bill doesn't go as far as it should to address the skyrocketing wealthy inequality, it will collect more than $1 trillion from the rich and big corporations to invest in children, seniors, and workers. So there's the myth, that we know about, the idea that tax revenue pays for spending. Of course, taxes do not fund spending. So the $1 trillion can be invested in children, seniors, and workers anyway, even if the taxes were not collected from the rich. But of course, Manchin and Sinema and the others would not appropriate that money. And that was the bottom line, and it's still the bottom line. Of course, the article says it's far too early to declare victory and go home. The Senate must pass their own version of the bill without a single Democratic vote to spare. That was kind of a nod there to reality. If they make changes, the House will need to vote once again for a final version before it heads to Biden's desk. But the Progressive Caucus has clearly demonstrated their expanded power on Capitol Hill. Now, that's the piece of bullshit. That sentence.
That's gaslighting for me.
That drives you up the wall. They haven't demonstrated anything in terms of expanded power. All they've demonstrated is their ability to cave to the leadership.
Yeah.
And
Absolutely.
to give away their leverage. That's all they demonstrated. They demonstrated that they're feckless.
Mm-hmm.
In her memoir, Use the Power You Have, Jayapal wrote that when she arrived in Congress in 2017, she was, quote, surprised to see how little power was really leveraged among the progressives, unquote. I don't think she's changed that a bit. Then Congressman Bernie Sanders and others formed the caucus in the 1990s as what she describes as a relatively informal social group where progressive Congress members could come together and discuss ideas. After Jayapal and Pocan were elected caucus co-chairs in late 2018, they raised dues to hire additional staff and rebuilt an independent nonprofit organization called the Congressional Progressive Caucus Center to help drive a more strategic and aligned the progressive movement, unquote.
Hey, Joe,
Yeah,
did they raise dues on the members of the caucus? Is that what they did?
they raised dues on the members of the CPC. So that money you contributed to AOC and to Ilhan Omar and to Cori Bush and to all the rest of them, part of that money went to the increased dues that they were getting charged by a CPC that did not have the guts to stand up to the administration when it really counted.
So if you are not a congressperson who's got a decent amount of money in your coffers, then you potentially can't even belong to the CPC.
That's true, I guess.
Sure sounds like it. It also,
Yes, it
they
sounds
were,
like it, but I don't know of anyone who was excluded from the CPC because they didn't have the money to come up with the dues. I suppose I have to look into that. I don't even know.
we do have to look into that because I know that they said that to even be on committees, you've got to buy in.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, to be on committees, you do have to buy in.
Oh, yeah. And it's not
Yeah,
cheap.
that is Nancy Pelosi's shtick, however.
Of the people, by the people, and for the people, my rear end.
Right. The CPC brings together a wide array of groups across issue areas to develop the progressive policy agendas and share analysis of legislative developments. Institute for Policy Studies and the Economic Policy Institute co-lead CPC Policy and Research Council. By the way, as far as I know, neither the Institute for Policy Studies nor the Economic Policy Institute have any people in them who are MMT economists.
God.
They're all Keynesians or post-Keynesians.
We need to elect some of them to Congress. Probably would never want to go there, but I don't see any way around it.
Well, the way around it is to educate all the congressional candidates, okay, in MMT, and then have them insist that CPC hire, some MMT economists, from one of the MMT think tanks. Some MMT economists actually from the Levy Institute, for example, or the Center for Full Employment and Price Stability in Kansas City. And perhaps by then Stephanie will have her own institute up at Stony Brook. I think she's been working towards that. Okay, evidently they have a news weekly that the action arm of the center publishes. That's called DC Download. And there's a link to that, so you can probably get the newsletter if you want to get it. It has been a go-to guide to the insanely complex the reconciliation bill negotiations. In 2020, Pocan and Jayapal also led an internal review to identify ways to further enhance the power of the Progressive Caucus. That led to decisions to move to a single chair type of leadership model and new rules to allow all the nearly 100 caucus members to jointly endorse signature bills. The Progressive Caucus cannot win everything we need through the chess game that is the current budget process. To achieve an equitable and sustainable economy, much more needs to be done, particularly to address climate change and wealth inequality. For insights into that bigger, bolder agenda, see the third Reconstruction Resolution Jayapal, Barbara Lee, and other progressive leaders endorsed earlier this year. So I guess it escaped me that they had such a resolution. So I am going to look at this later on. But having Jayapal in the center of this high-stakes game means we have a much better chance at securing real progress for people and the planet. Well, that final concluding line of that is more gaslighting. She hasn't shown that she can get anything for the progressives yet. She keeps going down. She never gets any real victories. So we thought you'd enjoy that little bit, okay, of dodgeball.
Terribly enjoyable.
Huh? I'm sorry, say that again?
Terribly enjoyable.
Terribly enjoyable, wasn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Yes. Makes us just love the Congressional Progressive Caucus, right?
I adore them.
I know you do. I do.
You know what? That's terrible. There are people in the Progressive Caucus that I really am on their side. I really am. I think they're on my side. I also understand what they must be up against in a lot of, just just the pressure that they're under because they are freshman congressmen, men and women, the dynasty that is sitting atop of them, the rules committee and the rule changes that they will change at the drop of a hat whenever it behooves them. All of that. I'm very, very attuned to that. But I am not going to ever pretend that the leaders of the Progressive Caucus are all on our side and all in for us. Because if that was the case, Jayapal would have voted against the bill. Okay,
Right.
let's just get real here.
Yeah, let's just get real. She would have said no, but she did not say no. Instead, she caved.
And she always gets away with that. I mean, people don't even notice it for whatever reason.
I think it's because of the kind of propaganda we just read.
Everything is just one big, that whole piece, aside from the fact that the writer points out that the bill has to go through the Senate, which most people I don't think follow legislation to that level. A lot of people don't. They find out about it later on. But a lot of people are looking at tweets coming out of the Progressive Democrats of America stating that Build Back Better passed, and they're going to walk through life for the next several months until they hear about, oh, now Build Back Better is cut again.
Yeah, they're going to walk through life thinking, okay, it passed.
Yep.
And one day they're going to wake up and say, why didn't I get any?
Well, yeah.
Where is it? Why didn't I get any?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yep.
Okay, the next piece is another failure, in my view. This one is about the reappointment of Jay Powell to the chair of the Federal Reserve. He was up for renewal under a lot of pressure from the progressive groups to not renew him, because even though he's been pretty good when it comes to monetary policy, he's been terrible when it comes to regulatory policy. That's a charge of the Fed, and he's done absolutely nothing to regulate the corporations. He's done absolutely nothing also to get them to start working but try to help with the climate emergency. So, quote, extremely disappointed, unquote, Biden blasted for renominating Powell as the Federal Reserve chair. That was a big decision, a very consequential decision. And this article is by Jessica Corbett on November 22nd, 2021, Common Dreams. U.S. climate campaigners and other critics of Jerome Powell's on the record as Federal Reserve Chair responded with frustration on Monday to President Biden's renomination of him to the post, despite opposition from activists, economists, and lawmakers. In a statement announcing the move, as well as the president picking Brainerd as vice chair of the Federal Reserve's Board of Governors, the White House praised Powell's steady leadership during the coronavirus pandemic, said that both nominees, quote, share the administration's focus on ensuring that economic growth broadly benefits all workers. Now, we haven't seen that kind of focus from Powell before, and not too much of that actually from Brainerd before either. So and actually we haven't seen that much of a focus from the administration on that, right? Either.
Right.
So that may be gaslighting by all three of them. Okay, but in Brainerd's case, she's been cultivating progressive groups, but for years now, as someone they could talk to who understood their concerns. She was angling to become the chair of the Fed. Okay. And so her appointment as the vice chair was kind of a sop to the progressives.
A what to the progressives?
It was a sop, S-O-P. Okay, read. It was a consolation prize. Okay, for the progressives.
Okay, I hate
it was
consolation
a
prizes.
small concession.
Everybody gets a trophy. That's what that was.
Yes, everybody gets a trophy. That's what that was, indeed. By contrast, the revolving door project at the Center for Economic Policy Research, that's the CEPR, okay, in Washington, which is a progressive think tank, said in a statement that it was extremely disappointed by the renomination. Quote, Biden has an ambitious and urgent agenda on climate, financial stability, and addressing racial and economic inequality, unquote, the project said. Quote again, Powell as chair of the Federal Reserve will make it more difficult for Biden to ultimately be a successful president, unquote. That was an understatement. Of course, the project added that, quote, this choice means the president now owns.
Can we just touch on this for a second?
Sure.
What is going on with Common Dreams? I can honestly say that the last several articles, maybe the last 6 articles that I've read from Common Dreams, have not felt like Common Dreams of even 7 months ago.
Right, or 6 weeks ago.
What's going on?
Yes, I noticed that too. But what they seem to be doing is just, picking stuff up from other sources that are supposed to be progressive sources.
Didn't one of the editors, or maybe the head editor of Common Dreams, step down or something?
I don't know.
I'm going to have to go back and look at that, but something is really off. Okay, sorry.
Yeah, no, that's fine. It does seem they've moved a little bit over to the right, sufficiently over to the right that we don't see the kind of criticism from them that we got before.
They're spinning. They're spinning.
They're
for
spinning.
The Democrats.
Yeah, they're spinning. They're spinning towards the center.
I mean, Biden just reappointed him, And then in the next paragraph, they're talking about how it's going to keep Biden from being a successful president. Like, what?
Uh,
People actually have comprehension in their reading, right? I mean, I'm not the only one picking up on this garbage, am I?
no, I don't. I don't think so. Okay, the next paragraph says the project added that, quote, this choice means the president now owns what is and what will be known about Powell's own trading scandal and his tight lipped, insufficient response to the whole slate of the Federal Reserve scandals. Now, what are these scandals? These scandals are investments by high level Federal Reserve officials in stocks, where, of course, they have inside information about what they're going to do.
Which is all totally legal as long as you disclose it. Thank you, Barack Obama.
I don't know if what Powell did is quite legal.
Well, he's going to be the chair of the Fed again. Doesn't seem to me like there's much consequence.
I completely agree with you. There's been no consequence at all thus far. But there is a lot of noise about his doing the sudden stock trades and making millions on them.
Who isn't, though?
Well, the chair of the Federal Reserve is not supposed to do that. That's why it's referred to as a scandal. It's supposed to be a clear conflict of interest.
Yeah.
Okay.
Sure.
So, but David Arkush, managing director of Public Citizens Climate Program, declared that the decision, quote, doubles down on reckless Wall Street deregulation and dangerous dawdling on climate-related threats to the financial system, flouting Biden's own whole-of-government approach to stemming climate threats. And quote again, as the 2008 financial crisis showed, fecklessness by financial regulators doesn't appear terribly dangerous till catastrophe suddenly materializes, he said. Quote, that is the path Powell has put us on. And I think that's right. That is the path that Powell has put us on. Other critics echoed climate-related concerns. Okay, Akiksha Chatterjee, the digital campaigner at Positive Money US, said that by renominating Powell, who has repeatedly minimized the central bank's role in addressing the climate crisis, Biden has missed a rare opportunity to appoint diverse and transformational leaders to the Fed, unquote. The advocacy group 350.org in July launched the Fossil-Free Federal Reserve campaign. Its demands included Biden appointing a chair who is a climate champion, quote unquote. Brooke Harper, a campaigner with the organization, said in an email Monday that Powell's renomination, quote, confirms what I feared the most. Biden is not the climate president he claimed to be, unquote. And, quote again, while we're disappointed in Powell's incrementalism on climate, we're making our demands heard. The Federal Reserve must steer the economy away from high-risk fossil fuel investments, incorporate a climate stress test across policies and lending, and prioritize the racial justice, including through full employment. She added in a statement, quote again, Powell's mandate to protect our economy includes protecting our communities from climate catastrophe, unquote. Okay. So the point is, Powell has been weak on climate. He's been involved in scandals, and he's been weak on regulation. He was initially nominated to the Fed board in 2012 by You guessed it, then President Barack Obama, under whom Biden served as vice president. He was confirmed as chair by the Senate with an 84-13 bipartisan vote in January 2018, after being chosen by Biden's predecessor, former President Donald Trump. Biden faced pressure from progressives in both chambers of Congress to pick someone else once Powell's term expired, including from Senator Jeff Merkley of Oregon, who, along with Senator Ed Markey of Massachusetts, is sponsoring about legislation that would make the Fed impose new restrictions on financial institutions to cut off funding for fossil fuel projects. We need to focus on climate action in all facets of the federal government, including the Federal Reserve. That was tweeted by Merkley on Monday. And, quote, Jerome Powell has already proven he won't answer calls for climate action. I will vote no, unquote. Senator Warren warned in September that renominating Powell would mean, quote, gambling that for the next 5 years, a Republican majority at the Federal Reserve with a Republican chair who has regularly voted to deregulate Wall Street won't drive this economy over a financial cliff again. I hate to point out, but I'm going to have to point it out, that who knows whether Powell is a Republican or not. He was appointed to the Federal Reserve Board in the first place by Barack Obama. I mean, so is he a Democrat? Okay, is he a Republican? Is he a Democrat in name only? What is he? We don't really know. Quote, it's no secret I oppose Chair Jerome Powell's renomination, and I will vote against him, Warren said Monday. I will support the president's nomination of Bilal Brainard as vice chair. Activists also welcomed Biden's selection, of Brainard. I don't know which activists, but these are. She has served on the U.S. Central Bank's board since 2014. Arkush called it the silver lining, adding that she has shown significantly more leadership across the Fed's missions and has influenced Powell for the better, unquote. So they're grooming her certainly for Powell's successor when he does decide to step down. She was always a centrist person until about 2012 or 2013. She appeared to be a follower of Larry Summers. Certainly, she began to distance herself from him, and over the years began to talk a lot more to the progressives. Noting that Biden has more Fed positions to fill, Arkush argued that, quote, he should quickly nominate individuals like the Michigan State University economist Lisa Cook and Sarah Bloom Raskin, a former deputy Treasury Secretary and Fed governor, as well as their wife of Congressman Jamie Raskin, a Democrat of Maryland, quote, who will improve the board's diversity and work to fulfill its full mission. Sarah Bloom Raskin is the closest of that group to MMT. She was someone who was mentored by Jamie Galbraith, who is an MMTer in all but name. Quote, Powell should defer to the leadership of Brainard and others on financial regulation and climate, Arkush added. If he refuses, they should use their majority in votes to steer the Fed towards responsible action. I don't really see that happening. The Fed chair is usually very powerful compared to the rest of the board. Okay, it's usually an informal thing in terms of how they relate to each other, but it's very rare that the rest of the board turns against the chair and tries to buck the chair. So Powell will do what he's inclined to do. And in the rest of his career, he's inclined to be very pro-corporate. We would be unwise if we expected that to change. Anyway, Alexis Goldstein, Director of Financial Policy at the Open Markets Institute, by the way, was very active in the early and the later days of the climate movement. I'm sorry, not of the climate movement, okay, but of the Occupy movement. Okay, so she's an occupier, and she knows a bit about MMT as well. Similarly emphasized the importance of Biden picking candidates, quote, with the ability to tackle the critical issues of our time. Corporate concentration that harms by working people, independent businesses, innovation and growth, that increases climate risk, racial, economic inequality, unemployment, climate change, wasteful and dangerous speculation, and predatory lending. Quote again, to ensure a fair recovery going forward, it is extremely important to bring in strong champions of financial regulatory protections and economic equality to the remaining open seats, she said, advocating for Cook and for Raskin as, quote, the kind of leaders the Federal Reserve needs to guarantee that the economic recovery works for all people. And Warren also acknowledged one of the open seats, saying that Powell's failures on regulation, climate, and ethics make the still vacant position of vice chair of supervision critically important. Quote, this position must be filled by a strong regulator with a proven track record of tough and effective enforcement, said Warren. And quote again, it needs to be done quickly, unquote. So you have the picture there. There was considerable pressure on the part of the progressives to get Powell out, but they failed. Okay, and Biden just appointed someone he knew, actually two people he knew, because Brainerd was in the Obama administration too, and so was Powell, and Biden knew them both, so he appointed them. And that's the way it goes in Washington, D.C. In part, it's cronyism. So next, California progressives to Feinstein. Let me share that one. I have forgotten to share it. It's about Feinstein again. So you can just imagine what's in there. California progressives to Feinstein. Support nixing filibuster for voting rights or resign. This is by Jake Johnson today also. Dozens of grassroots advocacy groups representing more than 150,000 Californians demanded Tuesday that Senator Dianne Feinstein step down if she's unwilling to support, at the very least, a voting rights carve-out for the filibuster, which of course is an archaic Senate rule that the Republicans have used to tank several pro-democracy bills in recent weeks. In a letter to Feinstein, more than 65 or so progressive organizations, including Indivisible East Bay and the Poor People's Campaign, warned that the GOP's aggressive voter suppression efforts and redistricting schemes nationwide mean that, quote, we are headed towards permanent minority rule over much of the country and therefore over Congress and the presidency, okay, a minority rule which will make a mockery of the idea that citizens have the right to determine how they are governed, unquote. And the letter goes along in this vein. And while expressing gratitude that Feinstein has thrown her support behind all three of the voting rights bills, the groups argue that the senator has, quote, refrained from naming the solution. The filibuster must not be allowed to stand in the way, unquote. They said, quote, we need you to step up now. We need you to call for the swift passage of the Freedom to Vote Act and the John Lewis Voting Rights Advancement Act. And we need you to clearly and unequivocally call for abolishing or providing a voting rights exception to the Senate filibuster so that this may be accomplished. We need you to step up and fight for our democracy and for the United States of America. If you can't or won't, please step aside so that someone more willing can take your place. Feinstein said in a statement earlier this year she's open to reforming the filibuster and acknowledged that Republicans have abused the 60-vote rule to, quote, prevent votes on important bills, unquote. But in the same statement, the six-term senator said she doesn't, quote, want to turn away from the traditions of the Senate. Tom Benton, one of the leaders of Indivisible Sonoma County, implored Feinstein to, quote, draw upon her seniority and leadership to champion the immediate passage, unquote, of key voting rights bills, and, quote again, in particular by stating her willingness to either abolish or create an exception to the filibuster for voting rights legislation, unquote. And the full letter of the groups is here. I'm not going to read that all, but you have the gist of it already in what I read so far. It's doubtful Feinstein will respond. She'll probably just ignore that. But there are groups in California trying to pressure her to step down, and they want her successor to be appointed by Governor Gavin Newsom, of course, because he's the governor. So he would get to make that particular appointment. Now, why they believe that a successor appointed by Newsom would be more likely than Feinstein to be helpful when it comes to the filibuster, I'm not clear about that at all. So that's where we are on that. Things in Washington continue to be a mess. Your sound has gone out, Lisa.
I was just going to say, Dianne Feinstein didn't even get the Democratic nod the last time she ran. So Dianne should be on her way out with her constituents regardless. You don't need to give her a reason to leave. Everybody in California that was a Democrat didn't get behind her. Again, here we go again.
Yep.
You know, I hate the fact that our politics has gotten to the point where the media and the spin dictates how you're supposed to vote. The people need to start dictating what the issues are that sink a candidate or why they're going to the polls to vote. We've got to turn this around. We have to.
Yes, we do have to turn this around. Okay.
And I'm not even talking about I'm just talking about how we think about what it is that either makes or breaks the support of a candidate. We've got to stop listening to the news media and repeating, parroting that stuff. That's what Americans do. We're so propagandized, it's frightening.
Yeah.
I mean, I've got trolls out here that seem to think I'm some sort of a major threat. It's hysterical. Oh, I think we lost Joe, unless you guys can't hear me. Can you guys hear me? Is it Joe or is it me that's out of the sphere?
No, it was me. It was an interruption in the feed. I have a direct connection to the cable
Okay.
at this point because we had some problems earlier this evening.
Okay.
So that cable came a bit loose on the back of my computer, and that's what
Oh,
it was.
okay, cool. That's cool. I just hope that like we could as a group, right? Because this is a pretty tight knit group that's here. Um,
Yeah, it's a pretty tight knit group, and we love you all, except for the Lana Del Troll.
no, it's yeah, but how else would I be able to like feel important if I didn't have that Lana Del troll in here, right?
Yeah, I don't know.
I mean, I really wouldn't feel very important without them. Um, we very much need to start thinking about. We have to be very critical of what we're reading, even in a former trusted source, because we're coming into an election year, and any news source that wants to stay in favor of the progressive caucus, of the potential change in power. Nancy just bought a home in Florida. It's looking like maybe she's going to retire. I don't know. Which they've already telegraphed that Jayapal would be a contender for the speakership. So what I'm trying to say herein is that when we are reading these things, we have to be very, very
Alert,
critical. Huh?
alert. We have to be alert
Very alert. If
and very
something.
critical, and very critical.
Mm-hmm,
It's true,
mm-hmm,
and we have to be aware of the framing and the small spin that's put on things. It's often very small spin, but when you do small spin 4 or 5 times in the same article, it turns into big spin. And I think that's what they're doing. It's the shading, they're continuously shading.
this week has been very disappointing in the sense that some of the publications that I used to feel got it right a lot of the time are now getting murky in their presentation, murky in their, nobody wants to paint progressives poorly, right?
All right.
It's
So they're getting soft in their language and
They
they're
are.
telling us the truth. How can
Mm-hmm.
you avoid making the point that Jayapal gave up her leverage, in early November? It was so glaring. There had been stories for months about how they were standing firm and how they needed to hold up the infrastructure bill to get the Build Back Better Act through. Those same sources were talking about that for months and months. And when Jayapal then gives up her leverage, hardly a peep from them. I mean,
Yeah.
they should have been screaming for the last 2 weeks about that, on how she caved. And they weren't. Only the alternative media were fulminating about how she caved. So the real
We just really need to be critical and pay attention. We cannot allow. Listen, if Jayapal is going to pursue power as the speaker, now is the time to hold her feet to the fire.
yeah,
Now is the time for us, uh, to call this stuff out.
I agree.
Seriously, call it out. Because if she's not going to hold up, if she's not going to stand up, then there are other people who might not be so friendly to the power structure and yet capable of running for that speakership and possibly winning. And anybody who's going to wield the kind of power necessary to become speaker is probably not going to be someone that we're all in love with. But we don't want somebody in there who's already telegraphed to the administration, the Republicans and the Democrats, which, let's just go there, the corporations, the special interests, that they're willing to play the game. Because that's what we've got.
Yeah, that is what we have. And by the way, there was something today that was posted by Jeff Denton. Let me pick it up and get it posted up there, and I can kind of share it quickly. Here it is. Here's the graphic. Okay, let me see if I can. Okay, let me see if I can get that. Okay, there it is. Let me see if I can get that.
Joe, we're blacklisted from coming on any of the real progressive programs, says the troll.
Oh, really?
Isn't that cool? Like that's awesome.
Yeah, that's very, very cool. I didn't realize that we were going to.
Romper Room 7.2.
I didn't realize we were going to have that honor.
Blacklisted.
Okay, it's a great honor. Let me see if I can access this with StreamYard here, because I unintentionally opened up another instance of my browser. So let me see if that graphic is accessible. Oh, here it is. Yeah, that's why it is accessible. Good. Okay, so here it is. This is a graphic. And what it says is it gives the contributions from the health industry to the various Congress people from the state of Washington. And the one who's taken the most from the healthcare industry is Kathy McMorris Rogers, $422,000, just about. But Derek Kilmer is a Democrat. Second, with $187,000, Dave Reichert, who I believe is a Republican, took $124,000. Susan Delbene, but she's a Republican too, Lisa, isn't she?
Who?
But Susan Delbene.
I don't know, but I can look. I'll look it up.
Okay, she took $105,000. Okay, then there's Denny Heck, who's a Democrat.
He is a Democrat.
He's taken $95,000.
Denny's a piece of work.
Yeah, I know he's a piece of work. And then comes Jaya Powell directly after. And remember, Jaya Powell's only been in since 2016. These other people, such as Denny Heck, Delbene, Kilmer, Kathy McMorris Rogers, they've been in for a very long time. So Jaya Powell, in her 5 years, she's been in 5 years, has taken $62,000 from the healthcare interests. And she is the one managing the Medicare for All bill, HR 1976. She's sitting on top of that bill, which appears to be a very good bill, but of course, but this time around, she wrote it, she got it out there, and promptly forgot it. did absolutely nothing to use any leverage she might have had to get a floor vote on it.
Del Benney is a Democrat.
Oh, she's a Democrat.
Yes, she is.
Okay, so in 5 years, though, 62,000 has gone to Jayapal from the healthcare interests. That's more money than they gave to Adam Smith. That's more money than they gave to Rick Larson. Why would they give that much money to the primary proponent of Medicare for All in the House? Is she bought yet? I don't know. But under my rule of getting rid of all of the incumbents who have taken money, she's included. She'd be gotten rid of. I personally don't trust her. Anyway, moving on to some comments and some questions. So there was a remark from Lana Dell, the real Lana Dell, because the color looks like it's the real Donald.
I think that Shane is saying that he actually timed out Lana, and the real Lana Dell is indistinguishable from from one of the troll accounts right now, Joe. So,
okay, so it's a little dicey right now.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, the comment, which I think was from Lana, sounds like Lana, says, "That's okay, Michelle. I was making dinner and also a little late." That's a comment of the kind that Lana might have made. Kay says, "Hi, Michelle." Carmen says, "Hi, Michelle." Hollywood says, "Hi, Michelle." Sandy Deck says, "Hello." Everybody's saying hello at this point. Okay, getting past the hellos. Jayapal has gotten a bit tarnished, okay, in my opinion. And hey, Sandy, that's certainly from Lana to Sandy. We've been friends for some time right now. And Michelle de Villiers says, "Or has she?" Carmen says, "Hi, Joe. Instead of asking for folks to buy a cup of coffee, maybe it should be buy me a glass of wine." Unfortunately, generally wine is more expensive than coffee. And also, there's nothing at Buy Me a Coffee that allows one to buy a glass of wine. So, Ghostart says, Biden reads end of quote right off the teleprompter. "Well done, America. You've elected hashtag Ron Burgundy, trending president." Tom says, "Buy you a cup of coffee," correction. And Kay says, "We need voting rights passed ASAP." Absolutely. And Judith J. Van Ryzen says that nothing needs paying for in the usual sense of the word. Absolutely, Judith. Sandy says, "This whole thing is just so disgusting." Kay says, "Yes, it is, Sandy." Evelina Pont says, "Unbelievable, to say the least, to buy in, to be in a committee." Yeah, that's really, having to buy in to be in a committee, that is unbelievable, Evelina, yes. How far do they think they can push people till they snap? Didn't they learn anything from insurgents on the Capitol? People are fed up on both sides. Good grief. Yeah, you wonder about that. Didn't they learn anything from the insurgents? It wasn't the left-wing insurgents, but who knows? Next time it could be. Evelina says, "I agree with Lisa. How's it going, Kay?" And Lana says, "I'm half watching on my TV. Can't make comments there." And Lana says, and that is Lana says, "I like Powell better than Yellen, though." Yeah, so do I. I think that Powell was a better chair of the Federal Reserve than Janet Yellen. Lana says, "It hasn't been a great day, sorry to say, but at least I have this week off." Now, that's definitely Lana. Evelyn says, "Keep it in perspective, but at every turn, it seems like it's rigged against the progressive base, even by progressives in Congress, by people who claim to be progressives." Kay says there is supposed to be a younger woman that is just behind Powell, but I cannot remember the name. You're thinking, okay, of Brainard, I think. She is slightly younger than Powell. She isn't that much younger than Powell, though. I think she's in her 60s, or at least in her late 50s. Laurel Brainard. I'm not sure how you pronounce it. It must be Lael or Lael, probably. I've never heard her say her name, so I'm not sure about the pronunciation. And Solana says, how is Powell going to make Biden any worse? I don't get it. It's not that he would necessarily make Biden any worse. It was that the appointment of someone, okay, who was a more progressive person might make Biden a little better. That was the hope, I think. So now a troll appears as Lana Dell. Let's see if there's a. Oh, the troll got the color right.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. It was very confusing.
Very, very hard to distinguish at this point. I am not going to read any of the comments from the troll. Sandy says, don't you have something better to do? Sandy says, yeah. And Ghostat says, Biden to stay in vacation home of David Rubenstein, co-founder, chairman of the Carlyle Group. The Bushies. That's the Bushies.
So dumb.
He's staying at the chairperson of the Bushies, who, as members of U.S. Chamber Business Roundtable, is spending millions to defeat the Build Back Better Act. So he's staying at his home, David Rubenstein's vacation home. Wonderful. Sandy says, if I have an issue with Steve, never have, you can ask him. I've never had issues with Steve, you can ask him. Well, evidently, Sandy, you have issues with Steve now, according to the troll, right? And Lana says, oh, Galbraith, I will take Sarah Bloom Raskin. Yes, you should do that. And Lana says, Sandy must be someone I blocked. I cannot see what they say. And KRTD Media signs in, and guess what? It's Jimmy. Jimmy says, hey, everyone, it's Jimmy here. I got to help to mod the comment section. Sandy says it was Lana. Lana says, hi, Jimmy. Hi, Jimmy. And Jimmy says, hi, Lana, you're popular. People want to be you today. They always want to be Lana. She's perpetually popular. Sandy says, they're probably the ones blocking me from sharing. Lana says, I keep saying I don't even want to be me and not sure why anyone else does. And Lana asks, Sandy, did you leave RP? Okay, I'm going to skip these trollish comments. Sandy says, they're really stupid. We're all working for the greater good. We should all support each other. It's not a contest. Absolutely. And Lisa says, thank you, Jimmy. I say thank you, Jimmy, too. And yet another Lana troll chimes in. Jimmy says, my pleasure. Evelyn asks, does Feinstein think she is going to take it all with her to the beyond? Sandy says, laugh out loud. I know, Lana, laugh out loud. I know it wasn't you. We've known each other for a while. We have a good relationship. Absolutely. Evelina says, how unpurposeful. And Jimmy says, what's weird is the names. They're exact copies of Lana's account name, no difference. I want to know how they do that and why just one person. It's confusing. And Jimmy says, oh, Dr. Joe drinking the Jesus juice. Kay says, we need younger people in there. Too many old. Sandy gives a thumbs up. And yet another Lana troll, but this time with a different color. Yes, we do, Kay. Evelina Pond says, now that is purposeful, Palisa. Kay says, thank you, Sandy. Oh boy, Jimmy, you are on the list. And Jimmy says, I can hear you, Lisa lost Joe. Joe is back. Yep, I'm back. Evelina says, decide to go to the polls to sink or swim a candidate. And Jimmy says, I'm screenshotting all these. Sandy says, I feel like I am in preschool. And Jimmy says, I was going to say the same. I put more people in timeout tonight than my own kid's lifetime. Okay, so this is going on. Yep, the L sometimes changes color on the troll. That's right. I gotta laugh at some of this stuff. Lana says, Joe, don't read this. Joe said for me to type hashtag Minsky at the beginning or end of my comment, okay, to differentiate. I will start doing that. Okay, but then the trolls will probably just copy that, won't they?
We're
And
going to have to do something. Lana, do you have Facebook? You're going to have to start logging in on Facebook.
I think Lana's trying to keep off Facebook.
Oh, is she?
Yeah.
Oh, heavens.
I'm afraid that Fran says, I'm afraid that Jay Apollo and the rest of her establishment buddies are all talk of no action. For we the people all have lost their credibility. Sandy says,
Yeah, Fran, I think that you're right. Paying meticulous attention now I've always paid attention, but not like I have in the last 7-8 years. Going through these administrations, going through the policies, and paying attention to what happens with these bills and what doesn't happen with these bills. It really is the special interests, and they're all taking money from special interests in one way or another. Yes. And then when you get into the leadership, the committee leadership, the caucus leadership, jockeying for positioning, trying to become the Speaker of the House, whoever's going to become the Speaker of the House is going to have to be friendly to certain power structures, because that's how you get in to be the Speaker of the House, right? So I don't know. I think we have to make sure that we are keeping our eyes open and being very, very astute and attentive to what this spin is. And
Yeah.
if it doesn't sound like it makes any sense, you know, we should talk about that stuff because a lot of people aren't going to talk about that.
Yep. We have to see through the spin, and we have to
Mm-hmm.
talk through the spin as
Yeah,
well.
let's. I'm telling everybody about my pupper here. Let's see if we can get the doggy on camera. Can we get? Come here. Can you come up here for a sec? Let me see if I can get. I want to just show you guys this.
And this is your golden retriever. What a lovely dog.
Yeah, it looks big.
He does.
Sweet dog.
Ran off with your red beret. Your sound is gone, Lisa. Your sound is gone.
I got it. I got it.
Okay.
He always takes them.
He always takes your berets, huh?
Yep, my husband just threw it back at me.
Yeah.
He is just the vet said he's a golden retriever. He's got 3 brain cells.
Uh,
He's actually really smart. It's just that retrievers take a long time to like calm down from being a puppy. They take longer than most breeds. 18 months to 2 years. Easy. So you've got like, a 60, 65, 75 pound puppy running around being a puppy thinking, oh, it's okay for me to like take my big old paws and smack you on the face because I've always done it, you know? So yeah. So he tore his ACL.
yeah.
Dumb. Anyhow, I needed to change topics, but I think it's really important that like we have these conversations. We should talk amongst ourselves about what it means and how people feel about it.
Yeah, and we should carefully interpret the articles for people so they really know what's going on. Alice Green says, is this on by YouTube? Hi, Alice.
Hi, Alice.
Yes, it's on YouTube and Facebook at once. It's being streamed to both. We can see the comment streams both from Facebook and from YouTube. But people on Facebook, of course, can't see the YouTube comments. And the people on YouTube can't see the Facebook comments. So Lana Dell, and I think this Kay is Lana Dell. I have an important question for you. There is a big turkey and I'm hiding. Do you have any suggestions? This is a major issue. I'm pretty worried. Do you have any suggestions? That was probably a troll.
Yeah, there's a lot of trolls, unfortunately.
Yeah, I don't think that was Lana. Fran Bauer says, yes. Sandy says, I am glad that the troll is keeping me up to date. Laugh out loud. Alice says, thanks, Fran. I'm looking there. Lana says, you're a major threat. Sandy, you have a secret. And so Sandy says, I did leave RP. I had and still have a herniated disc, and it can be painful if I sit at the computer too long. When I left, I was in horrible pain all the time. That's why I left. I was burned out. And BBB cheerleaders are admitting the BB bill requires states to pass their own laws before any of this will be enacted. The residents are still at the mercy of GOP lawmakers for infrastructure funds. And Kay says, nice dog.
Thank you.
Alana says, oh, cute doggy. Dolores Pierce says, beautiful pup.
Thank you, guys.
Kay says, I miss my little Sasha, my best friend for over 14 years.
Oh, okay. Did you lose a dog?
Yeah.
Oh.
And Sandy Dag says, oh. Sandy says he wants to join. Yeah, probably.
In everything you do. Everything you do. It's pretty amazing.
Yeah, sounds like a great dog.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Great dog. He's a wonderful dog. He really is. I just can't believe he tore his ACL. Ugh.
How old is he?
He's only a year old, Joe. Just turned 1.
Oh my God, that's really
Mhm.
unusual.
Well, the vet said that retrievers can be highly prone to it, and I went to a breeder and I got him, and he's not full golden. He's an English golden and then an American golden. So that's why he's blonde, because he's got the English golden in him. But yeah, I don't know. I just like we just have had the only two people, not people, but the only two individuals that live in this house of the 6 of us are that haven't been to the hospital in the last 10 days or 2 weeks are the 2 cats. Knock on wood. Knock on wood.
So you have 2 cats and 1 dog.
2 cats, 1 dog. Well, the
How,
fish haven't gone, but yeah.
how did the cats and dogs get along?
Really well. Um, I have 1 cat that is 15 years old. His name is Sammy, and he is a mouser extraordinaire. And mice. He catches birds out of the air, literally. Like, he's
Hi.
pretty amazing, and he doesn't take any crap from Louis. So Louis has learned to steer clear. Steps back, lets him pass. If the cat is sitting on the stairs, the dog won't go down the stairs. He'll sit and cry that he can't get down the stairs. And the cat likes the fact that he sort of controls his coming and going. The other cat, however, likes to play with Louis, and Louis's not afraid of Juno. So, a 60-pound dog beating up on a 12-pound cat, it's kind of funny to watch, because the cat will let him until he gets a little out of hand, and then the cat will start like screaming like, help, help. So they get along pretty good. It's fun. We've got our own zoo going on here. It's kind of fun.
Will they all sleep together?
Sometimes, like, they'll all get on the couch, but it's a 93-inch old leather couch, and the dog will be on one end, and then the cats will be up on the corners of the back of it. But
Yeah.
they don't curl up and sleep within one another, not yet. I mean, the dog's only been around for 9 months, because we got him when he was
Yeah.
three months old.
Uh-huh.
And when he was a puppy, like a puppy, the cats didn't want anything to do with him. You bring a new dog into the house and the cats are like, what did you just do? Like, what is this? They didn't want anything to do with him for quite some time, but they're coming around.
Okay, Fran would like you to put a beret on him.
I will. I have put a beret on him in the past, but he wouldn't leave it on. I'll get him. I'll get him at some point. He's gonna have to have surgery, so he'll be down. I'll be able to get him without him running around.
So Kay says Sasha was at the end of her life cycle and so sick all the time. I felt bad and finally held her while I put her to sleep. The best dog I ever had.
Oh, I'm so sad about that. I'm sorry.
But Jimmy says, crap. Sorry, Sandy. I'm going to do this on my computer so I don't click the wrong person. Kay says, I'm as allergic as anyone can be to cats. I'm sorry to hear that, Kay. And Sandy says, okay, I move back to Facebook. So it's kind of handy that you could see this both on Facebook and on YouTube as well. I guess that's not the worst thing in the world. I think pretty soon we're going to be arranging to go to Twitter also.
That's good.
To stream directly to Twitter.
Mm-hmm.
So, that's going to be useful, I think. Lana says, I think this may be the actual Lana says, most dogs have enough sense not to want a pissed off cat on their hands. Sandy says, very true, Joe. Well, okay, guys, I think. Oh, I should say something about the rest of the week. We, of course, will not have a show on Thursday, but we will have a show tomorrow. Okay, at the usual time, since it's not yet but Thanksgiving. On Saturday, I'll be starting a new show. The in-depth program will continue, of course, but I'll have my first installment of a new show on Saturday called "But Dump the Incumbents," and that will be produced over at KRTD Media. The in-depth shows, even though I try to stream them to KRTD Media, aren't actually produced at KRTD Media. I am the sole producer of those shows. Okay, but for Dump the Incumbents, we are going to move over to KRTD Media, and most probably Jimmy will be the producer of that show.
Nice.
Sometimes Jimmy and sometimes Shane, I think. So that should be a help to me. I won't, have to do the production myself.
Much easier.
It's much easier from one point of view, but on the other hand, one has to get any articles or videos over to the producer before the show in sufficient amount of time to integrate them. So there is that. Fran says, "Dump the incumbents." I love it. So we'll be expecting to see you then on Saturday, Fran. Lana says, "Love UK. Happy Thanksgiving."
Yeah, happy Thanksgiving, everybody.
Yes, indeed.
Yeah.
Happy Thanksgiving, even though we will see you tomorrow night before Thanksgiving.
Joe's going to make special food for Thanksgiving.
Yeah, and it won't be turkey.
What are you going to make?
Well, it's going to be lamb shanks for us.
Yum. That's what my parents tend to like to make when they're not at someone else's home for Thanksgiving.
Yeah, we really love lamb shanks, and I have a simple recipe for making them, but it works out great. And this year I'm going to have not only saffron rice with it, but it's actually a risotto. Okay, it'll be a saffron risotto with shiitake mushrooms in it.
That sounds lovely.
And that should just be really super, I think.
Yeah. He's a
Sounds
fancy
lovely.
cook.
Yeah, Bonnie never tires of telling people
Anna's here.
how good a cook I am. Yes, Anna Shumpus Denoye is here.
Hello.
Hi,
I didn't realize that. Happy Thanksgiving.
It's a pleasure to see you. Happy Thanksgiving to you, Anna. Kay says, "Happy Tea Day, go start." And Lana says, and this is the real Lana, it's called Desperate Crossing, the Mayflower Voyage and First Thanksgiving. I've seen that film. That is quite a good film. Sandy Day says, "Yummy," and Jimmy calls it, we call it Friendsgiving. And Fran Barrett says, "I'll be alone for Thanksgiving. Love to all. Be thinking of you."
Mm.
Fran, are you back down in Florida?
I think she is. I think she flew back down, yeah.
Probably. Okay. Anna says, "You too, guys," and leaves us a heart. Thank you, Anna.
Yeah, Fran's back in Florida.
Yeah, I bet they're having a nice Thanksgiving up in Vermont.
I bet they are. Everybody who's going to be alone, man, we should do a Zoom call. I'm not sure what's going to happen here. I might be alone myself. I might send my my family up to my dad's, but I don't think I can. I don't want to put the dog in the car and take him up there. So who knows what's going to happen here?
Well, if you want to have a call, if you want to have a Zoom call for Thanksgiving,
I was thinking that I would just give, if I end up being alone, I can reach out to Kay and Fran and anybody else who's going to be alone, and we can just sit down and do a Zoom and give thanks and maybe toast to one another.
that sounds like a really great idea. And if you don't mind having some company from two people who are not alone,
I would love it.
then we can certainly join too.
The only thing is that I'm not sure what's going to happen here. I've got to figure it out, but even if I'm not here, you guys should do it. I may be going to my dad's. I don't know. With the dog, I'm not sure what's going to happen.
Okay, we will see what we can do to arrange something like that on Thanksgiving then.
Yeah, because it looks like Lana wants to do it. Looks like, I guess it might be Jimmy saying I love it. Zoom giving. I like Zoom giving. Kay is going to be alone, and so will Fran.
So I think we can do something like that.
Yeah, even if you do a call, I could probably call in from my dad's if I end up going up there just to say hi to everybody. I would like that.
Okay, that would be great.
Yeah. What time?
That would be fun.
I don't know. What time you guys going to eat dinner, Joe?
We'll probably eat dinner about maybe 5 or so.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So,
probably 5.
So do it after that. So you guys,
Yeah, sometime after that, but maybe 7 or 8 or something. What do you think?
8 might do it.
Okay.
Oh, so, Fran, darn it, I'm going to set you up on Zoom. We'll do it tomorrow. Okay, I'll do it with you. I'll call you. We'll get it done. It's not hard, babe. You can stick it right on your phone. It's so easy. I'll walk you through it, and then I'll send you a link, and you can just bing, and I'll show you. All you got to do is click on the link you're in. And I'll do that for anybody else that needs that to happen.
Okay, that really sounds great. It sounds like a fine idea.
Right? I think that's a great idea. And if anybody finds out that there are other people that are alone that want to join, you have a license, Joe, that can handle. Well, you can handle 100 people without even having a pay-for license for 45 minutes.
I'm sure I can handle a number of people.
Yeah, that'll be fun.
On Zoom, I don't think that's a problem.
Okay, we can talk about that more later.
Okay.
So you guys, everybody, love you all very, very much. Thank you, Joe, for the interesting reads.
Thank you.
Oh, my pleasure.
Right.
And thank you, Lisa, for co-hosting with me and for all your very fine comments.
It's always a pleasure, Joe.
As well.
Always a pleasure.
Okay, so good night. And we'll see you again tomorrow with what we hope will be a very good show. And Anna, thank you for dropping in. We really appreciate that. And Jimmy, thank you for your work. And Dolores, thank you for everything you do. Always. We really, really appreciate it. Sandy.
Oh, here you go. Joe, do you have everybody's email?
I don't know if I have everybody's email, but I have a lot of you on either Facebook. I think I have just about everybody on either Facebook or on
Twitter.
Twitter.
Okay, so we can send Zoom links out that way.
Yeah, we can send the Zoom links out that way using both of those methods.
Okay, cool.
I don't see a person here that I don't have either Facebook contact with. So I will be able to send a Zoom link out. No question.
Okay. All right, everybody. I'm going to go say hello to my husband that I haven't seen all day because he just got home.
Okay. Well, thank you very much.
Love you, Joe.
And
Love you all.
everybody have a wonderful evening or rest of
Yep.
the evening.
See you tomorrow.
Okay. See you tomorrow. Bye.
Bye.
Okay.
Could you put the heat on?
Can I put the heat on?
Yes, please.
Yes, I can put the heat on. I will be happy to do that. I think that Zoom call for Thanksgiving is a nice idea. Because on Zoom, if people choose, one can see everybody. In other words, everybody is in on the call. Oh. Hi, Shane. Hello, Shane. Hello, Shane. What is happening here, Shane? I cannot hear you. Ah, there was a call failure. Oh. Hello, Lana.
Hey, I just wanted you to know that your camera is still running.
Oh, thank you very much.
Okay. Bye.
Okay, thanks a lot. Hi, Shane. What the hell's going on with this? Oh, I see. I didn't end the broadcast.